How are we doing, everyone? And welcome back to another episode of the Big D podcast on the Spunky Spectrum Sports Network. I am back for my maybe less weekly in the off season contribution. However, I'm here and I am ready. Of course, I'm Alex, your gracious host for the evening. And before we get too far in, please do not forget, if you are watching on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Dylan's pumping out content consistently. He's always got some really good content that you do not want to miss. He tackles every sport there is. I'm sure he's going to have some good Masters talk this weekend. And there's definitely some good stuff you don't want to miss there. If you prefer to listen instead of watch the videos, any music streaming service, Spotify, Apple Music, you can find us there as well. And of course, to introduce him, the host of your show, the turkey trotter himself, the Big D, Dylan. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm great, Alex. Finally getting a little rain here in the 239 for a change.
There you go. It's been pretty dry down here in Melbourne, so I'm happy get some of that spring weather, get the flowers blooming. I'm happy to hear it.
Augusta could send some of its rain our way, please.
I'll take it. I will. That I'm wearing green. It's not a green jacket, but we can pretend that it is. I would happily take the rain so that those guys over in Augusta could get some nice couple days of golfing.
Well, Alex, we are exactly 3 weeks from the NFL draft first round taking place in Kansas City. 3 weeks seems like 3 hours, right?
Absolutely. I mean, the NFL offseason is the longest time of my life, but we've already been through, pretty much the hot session of free agency. Of course, what comes next, the NFL draft, and I'm sure as Dolphins fans, it's less of exciting of a draft season this year, not having the first round pick. I think we actually have the least amount of picks in the NFL this year with 4. But it's still a chance for these college kids to make their dreams come true. So it's always a fun time.
Hey, I'm happy the Jags don't have the number one pick because I was sick of having the number one pick the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's never. I mean, anytime you're in that top 5, it's not a place you want to be. That's for sure.
Unless you're Seattle, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you get some wheeling and dealing going on, or if you know that you're not really doing anything for the next couple of years, then sure, it's fine. But obviously, at the end of the day, the 32nd pick is the best one to have in the NFL draft.
All right, Alex. So I figured what we would do tonight is ask each other questions. So the title of this episode is "What would you do?" Now you're going to ask me the college slash NFL draft questions, and I'm going to ask you the NFL draft questions. So, uh, so, do you want to defer or receive first?
I will defer. I will kick the questions over to you, Dylan, and let you start with the college football side of things.
You mean NFL side of things?
Oh, I meant I was going to be deferring the questions to. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we'll start with the NFL.
All right, Alex. Seemingly, the last couple of years have been many veteran wide receivers traded in and before, during, and after the NFL draft. Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, AJ Brown traded on draft night last year, and then DJ Moore. Other guys move. What veteran receiver not traded could be moved? Even Elijah Moore's been moved in recent weeks. What veteran
Yeah,
receiver could be moved between now and draft night?
the most interesting I think of, and it's not even necessarily a receiver that I think is going to get moved, but it looks like at this point it's a receiver that might be getting dropped. DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, from everything we've heard so far, it sounds like the Arizona Cardinals do not see DeAndre Hopkins in their future. It sounded like they were trying to get a trade partner working for him, and just based on the contract that he currently holds, and just some of the demand that one of the best wide receivers in the NFL will bring. It sounds like it's getting closer and closer to the possibility of him being released. And we just went through free agency, and obviously there's a lot of big names that are floating around during the free agency time, but there's not very many of those names bigger than DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, he's consistently been one of the best receivers in the National Football League since he joined the league. Whether he was doing it, it doesn't matter which team he was on. He was always he always was the focal point of that team's offense. So, whoever decides to make a run for DeAndre Hopkins, if he does eventually get released, or if a team can work out a trade for him, I think he's definitely going to be, as far as wide receivers that are kind of on the market right now, I think he's the hottest one there is.
I'm going to the AFC West. I would not be surprised if one of the two Denver Broncos receivers, whether it be Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy's move, because I've been hearing rumors the Broncos may or may not move them, but you know, who knows? Maybe the Broncos want a first round pick, maybe they want more draft capital, maybe Sean Payton or the Broncos or the Walmart Brain Trust may want some guys, but I'm intrigued what happens there. And then would the Raiders potentially deal Hunter Renfro, because we already saw them deal Darren Waller? I mean, what would the Patriots Desert Brain Trust do?
Yeah, I definitely like the Bronco receiver shout. I think a year ago that would have been, obviously, what would they be thinking if this was something that was being discussed back then? Because obviously the Broncos fans had very high expectations going into last season with Russell Wilson coming in. But now obviously, I mean, you bring in Sean Payton, you got a little bit higher hopes, but it's got to be, you got to get some of those assets. You're never going to be able to pay everyone. And I really like the Broncos shout as well. As far as Hunter Renfro, I know you mentioned New England. New England can always use receivers. I mean, other than Randy Moss, we know. And then of course the tight ends. The New England never seems to care about having talented receivers on their roster. So you would think that they would want to make a move for at least, a solid guy. And he kind of fits the Bill Belichick MO, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, at least they'll have a few more TikTokers on the Patriots this year.
Yeah, Juju coming in. I'm not worried about the Patriots. I think it's pretty obvious that they're going to be the fourth team in the AFC East this season. But it's Bill Belichick. He's a competitive guy. He's still going to try and make an effort to at least be respectable this year. Is this a back and forth thing? All right, perfect. Well, I'm going to lead off with my first college football question for you, Dylan. Very simple. I'm going to give you two names, and what would you do? Bryce Young, CJ Stroud.
I would take Bryce Young. Wouldn't even think about it. Bryce Young's better than CJ Stroud. Bryce Young, if Bryce Young was 6'3", 220 instead of 5'10", 194, we wouldn't even be thinking about it. Bryce Young's the best quarterback prospect in this draft. He was the Heisman Trophy winner last year. Probably would have won it this year if Alabama would have put together some decent wide receivers, O-line play. Bryce Young can make those throws that I'm not sure any quarterback in this draft class can make. I remember throws against all of them when they sacked him like 9 times, and I'm like, what? I think Bryce Young, yes. I am worried. He already suffered the shoulder injury. What's going to happen when he faces bigger, faster, stronger linemen in the NFL? But to me, if I've got the number one pick, Bryce Young's my guy. Bryce Young, even if you only get 3-4 years out of him, feels like he's got a higher upside. I'm not saying CJ Stroud's bad, but CJ Stroud's upside to me is Jared Goff or Dak Prescott. I think Bryce Young's upside could be Joe Burrow.
Wow. Those are fighting words. Those are heavy words. I do have to say, Dylan, all I could think about when you were talking about this, Alabama quarterback, a little undersized, coming off an injury out of college. You sure love hating on Mr. Tua Tagovailoa. I don't know. I mean, I'm seeing a very similar resume when it comes to Bryce Young. I mean, Tua, of course, didn't win a Heisman, but he sure did come in and win a national championship for Nick Saban as well. So I don't know. I mean, you give Tua the hate, but you're loving up on Bryce Young, undersized Alabama injury quarterback. Just something, not just an observation.
Hey, Bryce Young hasn't suffered 15 concussions like Tua's done in his short NFL career.
Yeah, well, Bryce Young also hasn't been the number one statistical quarterback at any point of an NFL career at this moment. So we'll see. Doesn't mean he can't be.
All right, Alex. Two guys you might have heard of, Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson. Will either one have signed or changed teams between now and draft night?
It's a great question. You know, I think, I mean, the Aaron Rodgers, I'll start with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that news seems inevitable. I really have been enjoying the radio silence because, it would be nothing but music to my ears to see somehow, some way this trade falling through and just watching the Jets fans absolutely deconstruct. I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's really no necessary rush to make the Aaron Rodgers trade immediately. I think everyone knows that Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. I think everyone knows he is planning on going to the Jets just based on some of the recent signings the Jets have made and his so-called laundry list. As far as before draft night, Lamar Jackson, obviously he has to be traded. It's pretty shocking to me why his market hasn't been higher. I understand the downsides of Lamar Jackson. However, I think the downsides of one Deshaun Watson are maybe a little bit worse than the downsides of Lamar Jackson. So if I had to say, I think we might see some Lamar Jackson news kind of pop up out of nowhere. It's too suspicious to me that he has practically gone on unwanted at this point. As how many former NFL MVPs can you think of who, if made available on the if made available for trade, would not have at least a handful of teams lining up at the door? I mean, there's got to be. I know Lamar Jackson's one of the easiest quarterbacks to hate in the NFL, just based on his rushing ability, but he's proven it. He's proven his ability. I think eventually one team will come out of the woodwork and make a move for Lamar Jackson. I don't think the Jets and the Packers are going to take any time to rush with the Aaron Rodgers news. They don't really need to. But I think Lamar Jackson, some team is gonna take a chance on him, and I think it's gonna pop up out of nowhere.
It would be interesting because you imagine all of a sudden on draft night, we hear Lamar Jackson traded to the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, teams have been a lot more eager to sign a lot worse players in the NFL. So the fact that it's been kind of silent on the Lamar Jackson front, obviously there is a little bit of drama added onto it, but he's an NFL MVP. He's one of the most dominant players in the league at what he does and his skill set. He's going to have a market. I know people are worried about his longevity in the NFL. Give him a fat 3-year contract if you're worried about it, and go watch the man ball for your football team for 3 years. But enough said about that. Let's move on. I got a question for you, Dylan. Texas running back Bijan Robinson has been a hot name leading up to draft season. Running backs, it always seems running backs in free agency are never the biggest targets, or never the biggest, hottest commodities. It always seems that teams would rather go through the draft route as far as it comes to running backs. And I'm curious, how early is too early to draft Bijan Robinson?
Oh man, you putting me on the spot with this question. I'm glad you're not Mel Kiper because he would hate drafting a running back in the first round.
Yeah.
Be honest, I think Bijan is a top 5 talent in this draft. But if I were picking, he would probably be in the 20s, if not maybe even second round, because I think you get a running back 90% is good. Just think back to last year's Super Bowl. Where did Isaiah Pacheco get drafted?
Couldn't tell you.
7th round. And I love Bijan Robinson. He may be the best running back I've seen enter in the NFL in a long time, since probably Adrian Peterson. But I don't think I would take him in the top 20 something picks because I feel like running back only gives you 3 or 4 years before they fall off a cliff anyway. And if you take a running back, some people are going to say the Eagles at 10 are going to take a running back. Detroit at 18. The Chargers, if they trade Austin Eckler, or heck, even the Cowboys. To me, I think you can get bigger positional needs and take a running back as a luxury pick. You can take, I mean, the Eagles could take a running back, could take Bijan, but I think they've got bigger needs on the offensive defense line. Maybe the Lions at 18, but I think they could get a tight end like Dolan Kincaid from Utah. Chargers could be if they trade Austin Eckler, but I really like Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M last year. But I mean, maybe the Cowboys. I mean, you imagine Jerry Jones let this guy from Texas go, but I don't think I would take a running back. I don't think I would take Bijan in the first 20, 25 picks.
Yeah, it's a lottery. When you're talking running backs, I mean, durability is always the number one concern. They're getting hit on every single play. They're either blocking or carrying the ball. I mean, everyone knows, I mean, the running back position, if you last, like you said, longer than 3 or 4 years, it's almost, you feel ancient at that point at the running back position in the NFL. So it's really a hit or miss. I mean, it's so hard to predict NFL talent coming into the league in the first place. And then you add on the most banged up position, and it really, as far, I mean, obviously the trenches, but other than that, most banged up skill player for sure. It's really kind of a crapshoot at the end of the day. Bijan Robinson's talented. Everyone knows it. Like you said, top 5 talent in the draft. It really just depends on what team feels like they are the best set up to be able to take a luxury, like you mentioned. I think of those teams you said, if I think the most likely, in my opinion, that would maybe target him would be the Chargers. I think as you mentioned, all of these teams do have things that they could potentially upgrade. But if the Chargers do move on from Austin Eckler, I helping Justin Herbert is the number one most important thing for the LA Chargers.
Maybe get him an offensive minded head coach would help.
Yeah, you're right, but the AFC is too packed. You have to have the talent. I understand the coach and whatever, but that's a whole different story. You have to have the most talented roster as you possibly can, especially in that AFC right now. And you're in the Kansas City Chiefs division. Obviously, the Dolphins are going to be good. The Bills are always going to be there. Even the Jets this year might even be up for contention. So you really have to be as talented as a roster as you can. I think I've heard rumors that the Cowboys might be going after Derrick Henry. Who knows? I mean, you make a good point with Jerry Jones not wanting to pass up on a Texas guy, but I think the Cowboys have too many bigger needs, and I don't think they're that close to being. I don't think they're necessarily a running back away. I think if the Chargers take a chance on a running back that could be a stud, that could be a top running back in this league, that could push them towards the top of the AFC, if it works out for them, obviously.
All right, Alex. Seemingly the number 3 pick is available in this year's draft because Arizona wants picks and would like to move back. So, and quarterbacks go crazy. So if Tua, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud go 1 and 2 in the draft, what team could be most apt to moving for Arizona's number 3 pick?
I mean, that's obviously the quarterback position is the most important position in the league. You got to think about teams who are in a danger spot. I keep hearing these rumors about the New England Patriots wanting to move on from Mac Jones. Do they trust Bailey Zappi with their future? Who knows? But again, Bill Belichick isn't necessarily the guy who's going to be making those splashes, especially in the draft. I mean, it's just that he is so boring as a general manager and as a head coach. I mean, in interviews and everything like that, it just, I don't see New England being a team that would make that kind of move, make that kind of jump. Although on the flip side, I think Bill Belichick is the seat is getting hotter and hotter for Bill Belichick in New England. And I think the only people who don't see that are New England Patriots fans. And honestly, it could be a move that Bill could potentially make to try and save his job, because you look at where the Patriots are as ever since Tom Brady left, and it's really showing that we know who the GOAT of that franchise is. We know who the GOAT of that team was, and it was Tom Brady. Bill Belichick, without Tom Brady in his career, is a mediocre coach, whether it's record, whether it's playoff appearances. I mean, he's practically a 500 coach without Tom Brady. I mean, he was never successful with the Browns. And since Brady's left with the Patriots, he made the playoffs with Mac Jones, and that was, I mean, barely, and got blown out in the first round. I think Bill Belichick might have a feeling that the time is coming, and I would not be surprised. Mac Jones still has value. I don't think he's a very good quarterback, but I think that he could still bring value if they decided to move on from him. I don't think they think Bailey Zappi is the future. And at that point, what does that leave you with? Do you want to take a chance on a free agent quarterback who there's not really many left, unless you try and go after Lamar Jackson? But I could see potentially Bill Belichick trying to make a crazy move to save his spot, because I really don't know. We've known about conflict when it comes to the front office in New England, whether it's between the battle between Bobby Kraft, Bill Belichick, and Brady. And there's always heads that have been knocking in that front office. And I think Robert Kraft is looking at his franchise saying, what happened? Because it wasn't a very long time ago we were on top of the world, and now they are at the bottom of the AFC East looking up, and really middle to bottom of the AFC looking up. So it wouldn't shock me if Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots decided to pull out some crazy move.
Particularly for Anthony Richardson, because he may feel like I need a quarterback upgrade.
Yeah. And I mean, and you make a good point with Anthony Richardson, and honestly, I hope they make that move. I hope they get rid of their capital. Anthony Richardson could be great, but I don't know. I don't see it. I'm on a little bit, and I grew up a Gators fan, but there's too much shock value with Anthony Richardson. Too much kind of covering the eyelids with a couple wow factors here and there, but I don't think the mechanics are there. I don't think the consistency is there. And honestly, I would love if the New England Patriots sacrificed their future for someone like that. So we'll see. Let's move on to the next college football question. Georgia's Jalen Carter. Very interesting subject around the off the field issues that he ran into over there in Georgia. Obviously, one of the talented players going into the draft. We've seen pre-draft character flaws result in significant drops in draft stock. Obviously, I think one of the biggest ones is Laramie Tunsil blessing the Miami Dolphins with his gas mask bong video. Obviously, there's been plenty of others as well. Where do you see Jalen Carter potentially dropping to? Do you see him dropping out of the NFL draft? Will a team take a chance on Jalen Carter, though?
Jalen Carter is going to be drafted, and he's going to be drafted high. I mean, yes, the pro day did not go well. Basically, flunking the pro day. He quit on the pro day. The driving 100 whatever miles an hour wasn't fun. But guys have made mistakes. I mean, 21-year-old kids have made mistakes. You and I have both made mistakes. I know we did dumb things when we were younger, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think Jalen Carter will be drafted because talent will win. And some people may feel like, you know what, this guy needs help. I mean, Lord knows if he's there at 5, the Seattle Seahawks are going to pick him. At least I think they will. The Detroit Lions would pick him at 6. The Chicago Bears would pick him at 9. He's too good of a player to fall out of the top 10. And by the way, some people are saying, well, Drew Rosenhaus is stupid for only having teams in the top 10 visit him. I think it's smart because Jalen Carter should be a top 4 or 5 pick in this draft, not going in 15.
I see your point, and it's the NFL, and consequences do not necessarily match actions in the NFL. We have seen it time and time again. Cough, cough, Calvin Ridley. The only thing here is that someone lost their life. It was a high-speed vehicle accident. My mind immediately, and maybe he's less talented, but he was still a talented NFL player. My mind immediately goes to Henry Ruggs. I mean, is Jalen Carter any less guilty than Henry Ruggs just because he wasn't driving the vehicle that the actual accident happened with? I don't know. I mean, it's the same crime. You were just not the one that. I mean, it's this. At the end of the day, it's like being the getaway driver of robbing a bank and it goes south. You are just as responsible being that driver, being part of that plan, as you are as the guy who shot the gun inside the bank. I mean, if you're street racing and the friend that you're street racing gets in an accident and kills someone, or I think the person that you're racing with is just as guilty. I don't see it being any better than Henry Ruggs, and Henry Ruggs is never going to play in the NFL again. I understand, of course, there's talent differences and there's no consistency when it comes to repercussions in the NFL. I'm just looking at it at face value, and at the end of the day, it's terrible what happened. It's a tragedy, and someone's got to pay for it. Someone already did pay for it with their life, and it's a tough situation when it comes down to things like that. But that's my only counter to your point. I totally understand where you're coming from, and it is the NFL, and things do not make sense when it comes to punishment and repercussions in the NFL. But I mean, the Henry Ruggs accident was so recent that that's the first thing that my mind pops to.
Yeah, especially because, well, you do have a point there. You do have a point.
But again, I mean, Calvin Ridley bets on the NFL and is suspended for a year. We've seen countless domestic abuse, domestic violence cases, 3-game suspensions. There is no consistency. Roger Goodell is signing a fat extension with the NFL. He's not going away anytime soon. And I think the mystery of punishments and repercussions aren't going away anytime soon either.
Okay, Alex, here's my question now. If you were the San Francisco 49ers, who's going to be your quarterback? Assuming both guys are healthy, which may be a stretch. Trey Lance or Brock Purdy?
It's a toss-up. I'm glad I'm not a San Francisco 49ers fan. I mean, of course, they had a fantastic season last year. A rookie quarterback almost took them to the Super Bowl. 7th-round rookie quarterback almost took them to the Super Bowl. I mean, at the end of the day, for me, it's hard to not give it to Brock Purdy. In my mind, based on what he did last year, it's Brock Purdy's job to lose. I understand Trey Lance is a spectacular talent. He's been very hyped since he joined the NFL, and of course, it was tragic what happened to him, losing his rookie season. But the fact of the matter is, the NFL is a business. Everyone knows it. And Brock Purdy wins games. Brock Purdy almost took the San Francisco 49ers to a Super Bowl. How you can bet against that for a man that you really haven't seen any NFL film on? I mean, of course, he played a couple snaps last season, but Brock Purdy took them to the playoffs. He won playoff games for the San Francisco 49ers. It only is fair in my mind that it's Brock Purdy's job to lose. Now, I will say I think Brock Purdy has a short leash, because I think they're close enough to where it's almost a 1A, 1B kind of situation. But I still think I give Brock Purdy the 1A just because he's proven he can do it in the NFL. Trey Lance hasn't proven it. The only thing he's proven is that he could get injured. Of course, injuries can happen to anyone, but you got to look at what you have on tape. And to me, that's Brock Purdy. But I think we have time for one more question. I'm going to jump right into it. I want to know, Dylan, straightforward. We've talked about quarterbacks. We've been talking about them a lot, and we're talking about the draft. How many quarterbacks are taken in the first round this week? This NFL draft.
All right, let me see. I want to see how good your math skills are.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that the number of licks it takes to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
Yes.
The world may never know.
I
5
think
quarterbacks in round 1, Dylan, huh?
yes, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, and Hendon Hooker.
I mean, you heard it here first, folks. I don't know what the Vegas over/under is going to be. For when it comes to quarterbacks, I don't know if I have to disagree. I think that sounds high. I think the line's probably at 3.5, and that's a good line. I don't know. You watch more college football than I do, but this isn't 2020 anymore. This isn't even. I mean, 2021 has turned into a bit of a disgrace when it came to the quarterback class. But this isn't the 2020 draft class where you've got superstar upon superstar. These guys are good, but they don't have the hype that some of these previous quarterbacks have had coming into the NFL. I'm sorry, they've had the hype because of who they're compared against. But in relation to coming into the NFL and being the guy, the Trevor Lawrences, the Joe Burrows, the Justin Herberts and Tuas, the Jalen Hurts. I mean, I don't necessarily know if any of these guys, I mean, maybe the top two, maybe Bryce Young is comparable, but I don't even know if CJ Stroud, and I definitely don't think Anthony Robinson are at the level of those guys. So I think you're high there. I think 3.5 is the line, and I would even consider taking the under there.
We need to have a friendly wager on draft night then.
We might. I'm gonna have to do a little research first, but make sure I'm not going crazy there. But
hey, that'll be the only thing the Dolphins do in draft night because you don't even have a first round pick.
yeah, it's gonna be. I'll probably keep my phone on Adam Schefter's alerts just to see if we trade in, but I don't really see that happening.
All right, Alex. Thanks for hopping on with me, and I'm glad you were able to ask me some challenging questions. What would you? Would you trade me for? What would you trade me for?
Dylan, I wouldn't trade you for $1 million, buddy. Maybe a Dolphins Super Bowl win. That would we'd start getting into the territory there, but